Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, the show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show. And this one, Tim, is for July. And it is a little bit past Independence Day, so we hope all you guys here in the USA had a great 4th of July and all that. Tim, how are you doing? I should introduce you. This is Tim Peterson, the Mr. Arcade Repair Tips to the producer, director, editor that I am, Jonathan Leung. So, you see, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting too fast in there. But, guys, we're so glad that you're joining us today for the special live show for the July episode. Now, Tim, we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on. And so, before we get started into all that, though, why don't you tell us what you've been up to? Did you have a good 4th of July?
Yeah, I did. Kind of relaxing day. Didn't buy any fireworks because every redneck in my neighborhood shooting them off. So,
so you didn't need to.
No,
you saw all the fireworks
all
you needed.
for free.
That's right.
And it went on to about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
so.
gosh. Yeah, and it was the same here, Tim. We heard fireworks all night. It was hard to get to sleep. And I had to wake up early the next morning, of course. So, you know how it goes.
I guess one thing, it's amazing to me how good of fireworks you can buy at the local stand.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, these were really good fireworks. They actually did a pretty good display. And I thought, remember when I was a kid, you go to the stand, you bought firecrackers, Roman candles, bottle rockets.
That's right.
There wasn't like these big fireworks and stuff like you'd have
what
to go to a show.
What was the one we bought?
To see
It
them.
had like 50 artillery shells in it. You remember that one year?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't remember the name
The
of it. The Megaton or something like that?
yeah.
The Megaton. So they always have great names, Tim. Always
Yeah.
like firework names. But so you did shoot off some, or you saw some fireworks?
Saw some fireworks.
Did you cook out?
I had a cookout, ate some ribs, and pretty much just a normal day. Got to take the day off and just relax. So it was good.
Sounds good. Well, go ahead and just tell us, other than the 4th of July stuff, what else has been going on since the last episode? So basically, your whole month of June and a little bit of July.
Well, I took a vacation with 18 family members.
That's a lot. So were you guys like killing each other by the end? Or?
You know, it was touch and go a few times there, but everybody survived. Just a few broken bones and cuts, but everybody's still alive. No, it actually went pretty smooth. Everybody kind of did their own thing during the day or whatever. Then we grouped back up, stayed in a big house on the beach. So enjoyed my vacation. After that, you got to get back to work, and it's hard this summer. It stays light here in Texas till 8:30.
Right.
So I've been getting off around 4 or 5, so I still got time. Been doing some swimming for exercise and things. That's really about it. Every day seems like something to do.
Well, I will say this, Tim. It seems like we haven't had the heat that we normally have here in Texas. Most of the time, Tim, it's about 100 and something degrees outside. But because we've been getting so much rain in this area, we really haven't had that, which makes it actually somewhat pleasant to work outside.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm not running my water sprinklers like 3 times a day as it was last year.
Exactly.
So, I have enjoyed the cooler weather, although it's been kind of humid.
Yes, it has.
A little more humid maybe than normal.
Absolutely. So, well, Tim, I'm getting ready to go on vacation. My vacation is next week. So
Okay.
You have already beat me to the vacation place, and so, that's great for you, but I'm looking very much forward to being on vacation next week. So we're kind of getting this in between the 4th of July and my vacation. It works out really well. So, guys, we want to thank you guys again for joining us, and remember that you guys can leave us a lot of messages, questions in the live chat, right, Tim? We have some people saying hi in here. We have people saying where they're from, all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys for joining us. And remember, just if you want to comment or send questions, please do it in the live chat. Well, Tim, is there anything else before we get started?
Oh, let's get going.
Okay. Well, should we tease some stuff?
Well, maybe. What are we
Okay.
teasing about?
Well, I will say we are going to talk about the Super NES Classic Edition in this episode
Yes.
a little bit later in the discussion portion. We're also going to talk about where you may be able to find the NES Classic Edition. There's a certain retailer, Tim, that we've heard is restocking them right now. So if you're looking for one, we're going to tell you, hopefully, somewhere you can go and get one. Tim, I think we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars Pinball. I know we haven't really seen the video, but they did release a gameplay video of what it looks like. And everybody's very excited about it, so we may be talking a little bit about that too. But Tim, I think that's enough teasing, all right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into the show. And here we go. The first one we have here, Tim, is a follow-up from Nightwing Ben 101. And he says, Rory here, thank you so much for the advice on the Tron repair. Jonathan and Tim, I removed the MCR 90412 power supply, and it was badly corroded as you suspected from the battery. I replaced this with the deluxe switching power supply and MCR adapter, and everything powered up beautifully. The gameplay is perfect. Thank you so much for your help. I sent you a picture of my monitor which shows some color distortion in one corner. I think it has been there a long time. Is this likely a degaussing issue? I need to rotate the game machine while it is turned on, a beam adjustment issue, or do I just need to rejuvenate the monitor? What is the most likely issue? Thanks again for a great show. Rory. Now, Tim, we have Rory's picture here, but before we get into actually showing that and kind of what the problem could be, tell me just any kind of discoloration issues. What is your first go-to? What's the first thing you go to when you hear about a discoloration issue with an arcade monitor?
Well, if you've got some good colors on the screen, but certain areas, his key component is the corner.
Right.
And so usually we think of degaussing the monitor because that just spreads out everything. All the electrons and stuff get back into place and everything aligns back in the world.
Kind of demagnetizes anything that may have moved some or shifted some things around.
Right, and most of the time that's what it is. Now, if the whole screen is like that, a lot of times then we're talking to mostly, we suspect that it needs capacitors changed, like a cap kit or something.
Sure. So in this particular case, you're leaning more towards a degaussing issue.
Right, especially after we show this picture.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and show this picture here. And so you'll see that we've circled in red exactly where that discoloration issue is there, Tim. And I agree with you. From the picture, it does look like a degaussing issue. And of course, Tim, we have a post on that, right?
Yeah.
So if you go check out our post on using a degaussing coil, you can find out more about how to get those discoloration areas in the corners out. And Tim, you can still buy degaussing coils, even though they're kind of going out of style with CRT monitors dying. You can get one from Fry's at Fry's.com, and there's that URL here for the GC Throzen high power degaussing coil, Tim. And it'll run you around $40. So I mean, it's not real expensive. I mean, it's something that you can pick up fairly easily. So I mean, for me, and if you have a Fry's near you, of course you can pick one up,
right,
which we do. But you know, degaussing coil for the $40, it's worth it. You can make your own.
Right.
There's been a lot of people who have. You've made one, Tim, in the past, so you can make your own. But Tim, I think for $40, it's just worth going ahead and getting the one from Fry's if you want the convenience.
I agree.
So, Nightwing Ben 101 hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting that discoloration out. Tim, you got to remember, when he emailed us last time, the game wouldn't even come on.
Right.
So how much progress has he made just in the short time that we've been working?
Yeah, we'd rather play a Tron with a little degaussing issues than nothing at all.
That's exactly right. So, Nightwing Ben 101, thank you so much for giving us the update, and good luck getting the discoloration out of your Tron cabinet. Now, Tim, that was pretty much all the follow-up. We had like a lot of like good job guys and stuff follow-ups, but you know, I really only wanted to cover the ones that we had to discuss. So we'll go ahead and move right into the questions for this month here, Tim. And the first one we have is from Malik Sadouni. Is that how you would say that? Sadouni?
Close enough.
And he says, I just got an old arcade that I'm trying to repair. It has a convergence problem, but there are no rings at the back of the CRT. Does this mean that I need to change it completely? Okay, Tim, so we've seen this a couple of times. It seems like it's more common on like older monitors, but you'll see it on newer monitors too, where there's no purity or adjustment or convergence rings on the back of the tube. Now, if that's the case, what can we do to adjust it? Is there anything we can do to adjust it?
No, there's not much choice when the rings are gone or the yoke has been removed.
Right.
And he actually sent us a picture. And
let's see if I have. Well, actually, yeah, this is a picture of his setup just to show here, and you know, you'll see here, if your yoke is missing the convergence rings like this one is here, Tim, a lot of times that means that the tube and yoke were probably converged during the manufacturing process. So when the manufacturer actually put your tube together, they put it together to make sure everything aligned properly.
Right.
Okay. In these cases, typically the yoke will be basically permanently attached to the tube. Whereas some, with ones that have rings, a lot of times you can remove the yoke and put it on another tube.
Right.
Okay, but a lot of times if you don't have the rings, Tim, it's going to be permanently attached because it was converged at the factory. So, Tim, what are his options at this point if he's out of adjustment and, he can't get it back in with adjusting the rings?
Well, he's going to have to either find a monitor tube that's very similar and compatible and swap the tubes.
Right.
So that he can have one that doesn't need adjusting or that he can adjust.
Right.
or he's probably just going to have to replace the monitor at this point.
Right, and we put that down here, Tim, in the your options at this point section. Down at the bottom it says, number 1, you can find a compatible tube, do a tube swap like we talked about before, or you can replace the monitor altogether. Those are pretty much your only 2 options at this point. So, Malik, hopefully that answers your question. I know that's not the best answer, Tim. I mean, people want to hear, oh, well, you can put the rings on or something like that. But, I mean, it just depends on the tube and how it was manufactured. You know,
Right.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So, in your particular case, what we'll have to do, Malik, is we'll have to either find a compatible tube or we'll need to replace the monitor altogether. So hopefully you don't have gun games. We'll be talking about that here in a little bit. But with light gun games, you have to find another CRT. If you don't have a gun game, an LCD would do fine at this point too. So hopefully that answers your question, and good luck working with the monitor in that arcade cabinet. I don't think he told us which one, did he, Tim? He didn't say which.
No, he didn't say what.
Yeah.
What game?
So whichever game it is, good luck getting that monitor back up and running. Well, Tim, I think this would be a good time to remind everybody that if you're watching and you want to leave us some messages or questions, we do have the live chat open. So be sure to leave us any messages or questions there. If you want to comment on anything that we've covered as we're covering it, you can do so there as well. Okay, Tim, let's move to Sam. And Sam has a really interesting question. We've covered this one on the podcast quite a bit, but not as much here on the live show. So let's take Sam's question here. And it says, hi, Jonathan and Tim.
Hello.
What is the method you use to clean dirty arcade PCBs and monitor chassis? Thank you so much, Sam. Now, Tim, I went ahead and listed some of the methods that we use for cleaning circuit boards, but I'll let you go over them because I took this all from you. So go ahead and go over some of these methods that you can use to clean your PCBs.
You know, years ago, I think it was Pat Dennis that told us about Simple Green. And it really does seem to clean circuit boards, especially those really grimy or dirty ones. And you basically just spray it, and then you wash it off with a water hose. That sounds so weird, and the first time you try it, you're thinking, what in the world am I taking a water hose to my chassis? But it's very, very safe. Just make sure that it dries all the way. But one thing that I like to do is when I'm at work, we have a commercial type dishwasher, and that is to just put them in the dishwasher and let the natural dishwashing liquids and stuff, whatever we're using, go ahead and clean it, and it will clean a circuit board great. Again, you've got to not use the heat drying option. We just want to let it air dry, and make sure. I usually give them, if possible, at least a couple days to make sure. Now, you can take a heat gun or something. I would recommend just an air hose. Some people use a heat gun or a hair dryer, but just an air hose and blow. It's amazing how you'll think it's completely dry, and then you'll blow up under some areas and a little bit of water will come out. So drying time is the key, and to take your time and to do it, but it will clean them very good. And I'm sure there's many other cleaners that you could use. The key is, like Windex or something might even dry faster. The key is to making sure that it does dry.
And I'll go ahead and go over this so we can just show everybody here. So for Simple Green, Tim, of course, you can spray it on the monitor chassis and tube and rinse with a garden hose, like you said. For the game PCBs, you want to spray on in a kitchen sink. So like put the game PCB in your kitchen sink and spray it real good. You can use a brush on the dirty areas, Tim, like a paint brush or like, just like a little, whatever kind of brush
you know what's good at work? We use a makeup brush.
A makeup brush, there you go.
A real soft bristle makeup brush. I mean, I saw my daughter one day and she was kind of doing this. And we use that all the time, cleaning circuit boards that are in a game that are dusty, and they'll just brush them real quick.
Now, and like I said, I've heard like paint brushes and other things as well. Rinse with the sprayer. So, you have a sprayer in your kitchen sink, you just spray it off. Now, the dishwasher, like we said, normal hot water wash, no detergent. No detergent. Can I say it again? No detergent, okay? Do not use any kind of soap or detergent. Do not use a cycle with a heat drying option, which Tim also mentioned. Now, the only thing about the dishwasher, Tim, is it can be kind of rough on the PCBs, okay? And so
if you do it every week, but we're talking about you're cleaning something for 25, 30 years and you probably will never clean it again. You'll probably be okay.
But the thing about it is that you do want to make sure that if your PCB is kind of brittle already, the dishwasher may not be the best option for you because you don't want parts falling off, right? I mean, that's the key. So be careful with the dishwashing option. Now, Tim, we also have please make sure the board is completely dry before putting it back in your game. And Tim, here in Texas, that's usually not a problem because we can just set it out like in your garage or
Yeah.
carport, and it gets 100 and something degrees out there, and you just let it sit for 2 days and it'll be dry. I mean, there's no problems. But
About 30 minutes.
Exactly, even 30 minutes. But, you know, just make sure that it sits out there for an extended period of time before you put it back in. Any wet areas that are on the board when you power back up, Tim, could short. And that's what we have. That's what we're trying to avoid. So make sure that any way that you clean it, that you do it in such a manner that you dry it completely before you put it back in your game. So anything else you want to say about cleaning PCBs, monitor chassis, anything like that?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, well, if any of you guys in the chat have any other tips on doing washing boards, please let us know. We'd like to throw some more of those out there. So if you guys do wash your boards or have rinsed them before, please let us know what methods you've used, and we'll mention them here on the show. Okay, Tim, well, let's move on to Gary. And Gary says, "Hey guys, love your videos. I could watch them all day long."
Wow.
Ah, you see, look at that, Tim. "I am in over my head with this problem, and I'm hoping you can help. The monitor on my Maximum Force is broken." Pictures attached. We'll show those here in a minute. "I was wondering what the best course of action is for an amateur like myself. Is this something that I could get a replacement part for, or should it just be trashed? Would a home model Sony CRT flat screen with a converter to S-video input work? If so, what model converter would you recommend? Lots of questions, but I can't think of anyone else I would trust enough for advice. Thanks, Gary." And we'll go ahead and move here. Here's some of the pictures, Tim. Now, I think this little red area, the red circle here, is probably the biggest telltale sign that something's probably wrong.
Right.
Okay, as you can see, there's a big red area here, and you actually see the neck board is kind of just barely hanging on to the neck of the tube there.
Right.
Tim, I think even if you're not familiar with arcade repair, you can probably say to yourself, that's not good.
Yeah. What we call that here in Texas is now moved into target practice.
Oh, target practice. Okay. Yeah. Now, Tim, here's the deal. We actually got 2 questions from 2 different people on about the same issue.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to bundle them both together so that way we can kind of just answer them once. We don't have to answer them separately.
Okay.
So that question we just got was from Gary, and this one is from Ben, and so we'll go ahead and get into that. Ben says, "Hello, I stumbled across your website while looking for a way to fix the monitor on a confidential mission cabinet that was damaged in transport. The back of the monitor broke off at the circular connector between the monitor itself and the smaller board. I was thinking converting to an LED or LCD monitor. I was thinking about converting to an LED or LCD monitor. Is there a product I could buy that would be easier and or cheaper than a replacement CRT? The monitor is 32 inches, and the board that previously mounted to the back took a 4-pin and 6-pin input that were in line plus a separate 5-pin. I am new to this, but any help or a point in the right direction would be appreciated. I have attached pictures. Thanks, Ben." And Tim, we'll go ahead and look at those pictures now. And as you can see, this one, the neck is like completely fallen off, right?
Right.
I mean, just totally gone. So, Tim, in both Ben and Gary's questions here, we've lost the neck.
Yeah.
We have lost the neck of the monitor tube.
And let me just say, if you've been collecting arcade games for any time and have moved at least 10 and you haven't had this problem, you're very lucky.
Yes. Oh,
Because
we've definitely cracked some tubes.
Almost everybody I know, especially moving games, we've moved them out of state and across state. It's not a very uncommon problem.
Right.
And not just a rookie mistake, it's something they're very fragile back there that happens.
Right.
So don't feel bad about breaking the tube.
Exactly. Now it sounds like though, like in Ben's case, Tim, it actually happened in transport. So like when the game was being moved. Don't know about Gary. He really didn't say. But Tim, you said target practice. I think that's an apt description, and we'll go ahead and show this here. And this is another picture, Tim, and you can see this was I think from Gary's here how that monitor neck has cracked. I mean, just nasty, nasty looking. And we put here, looks like the neck of the monitor has been damaged. This pretty much means that it's the end of the line for this tube. Maximum Force and Confidential Mission, Tim, unfortunately are both light gun games.
Right.
Which means that we will have to replace them with another CRT. Okay, so your options at this point, you can find a compatible tube, do a tube swap, like we talked about before, or you can replace the monitor altogether. A TV CRT should work, but you do want to stick to curved. Flat screens work okay for light gun games, but most people are going to recommend the curved screen, Tim, just because that seems to be, the overall consensus. I mean, the flat screens don't target. Sometimes they have problems getting in the corners of the screen.
I agree.
And so you really want to stick with a curved screen CRT if you can. Tim, they still sell them, especially that size. Like the bigger sizes are easier to find in the CRTs than the smaller sizes, right? And so with that in mind, I think you should, both of you, Gary and Ben, should be able to find a replacement tube or a replacement monitor that will work with both your games. Right?
I would always check with your local operators because they have been converting and stuff. A lot of them will have old tubes around. There was a guy here local that local operator gave him 25 tubes not long ago. Remember that? And
yes.
So they're out there. So I would definitely look in that direction. But you can buy them new, and they are about the same price as LCD.
Yes.
So you're going to need one for a light gun game, but for anybody else that's looking and you thinking about it, you can. It's about the same price. They're about $400.
They're pretty pricey, unfortunately, but. I mean, if you want your game working and you want to look the best, Tim, that's probably the best way to go, right?
Yeah, definitely going to look great.
Right, you can rig up a TV, but I mean, sometimes that doesn't look as good as an actual arcade monitor is going to look. In fact, most times it won't.
And most of the time, the TV is still in a casing,
right,
and will cause heating problems later because you're putting it inside another casing. That's why, guys, when we open up an arcade game, we will see that doesn't have the casing around it. That helps control the heat.
Exactly. So, I mean, for Ben and Gary here, Tim, I think the best thing that we can say is just replace it with another monitor, or if you happen to luck upon another tube that is compatible, swap out the tubes and you should be in good shape.
Yeah.
Right? And you can use a TV, you can, but like Tim mentioned, you may have heat issues with that. We'll need a converter board with that. Tim, they have the RGB to composite out what you can get for that. That will work, but there are some other issues, and the picture probably won't be quite as sharp as what a new arcade monitor will. So probably in this particular case for both of y'all, unless you can find a compatible tube, probably best to just go ahead and buy a whole new arcade monitor. So hopefully answers y'all's questions, and good luck getting both those games back up and running, Gary and Ben. Now, Tim, I see you over here. I see that we have a question in the live chat.
Okay.
And this is from Scott. Scott says, "Hi guys, I have some galvanized aluminum coin buckets. Any suggestions for cleaning them up and maybe painting them?" Okay, he also says, "Some of these parts have a chalky white residue on them. Is paint the right answer?" So, Tim, what do you think? Okay, so we have galvanized aluminum coin buckets.
Yeah, we like to use believe me, Chuck E. Cheese wanted everything shined and cleaned up.
Right, even if people aren't going to see it.
Right, there's something you can get at Walmart called Neverdull.
Neverdull?
People use them on rims and so forth. It will clean those up really nice. If it has rust and stuff, you're going to need some steel wool, maybe some sandpaper.
But it seemed like, was it Brasso or something like that?
Brasso works okay.
I was thinking...
The next product I would recommend is called Maas, M-A-A-S.
Right.
And we use it on our CoinMex, or when we had CoinMex, and it will make them sparkle. Now, it really does a good job of cleaning them.
So, M-A-A-S.
M-A-A-S. It's
Maas.
a cleaner. You used to could get it at Walmart. I haven't seen it lately, but I know you can get it online.
So Neverdull,
and Maas, and you may need, if it's got rust or something, of course you're going to get the rust off. Now, I mean, painting it, I mean, that's kind of up to you. Now, you probably should talk to your local paint store if you're going to go that route.
And see what they would
recommend.
recommend.
Really detailing a game, though, if you're worried about the coin bucket. I'm just saying that's great.
Yeah.
I think so. So you can't go wrong, and nobody's going to see it, too many people but you. But they make paint specifically for aluminum and stuff, and you should talk to your paint store about that. Or really what would be good is probably like an auto parts store.
Right.
To get something that would work on a car.
If it works on a car,
yeah, then it'd probably be a good paint for you. Probably want to stay away from anything water-based. It needs to be something that oil-based that will stick and adhere to that. So hopefully that answers your question, though.
There you go. Well, Scott, hopefully answers your question. What would you say? Neverdull, Maas, maybe Brasso, just depending on if there's rust or anything. And as far as painting goes, check with your paint, whoever you buy your paint from for that. Tim, I'm a big Sherwin-Williams guy. So Sherwin-Williams is where I always buy my paint. The people there always know what they're talking about. You know why I like Sherwin-Williams? I'm going to go in a little bit on a tangent here. You know why I like Sherwin-Williams?
What's that?
They put the paint codes on the receipt.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best things ever. You take the receipt back in, you say, I need this paint.
Right.
And they have the paint codes right there. It's beautiful.
I'll tell you another thing, Jonathan, is if you find a paint that matches, they will put it in a spray can for you, too.
Right, they will.
And that really helps. So especially an odd color like we use a lot, like some teal green or something, I can get it in a spray paint once I got the color.
Sounds good. So Scott, hopefully that answers your question. And yeah, use a little Never Dull, use a little moss, and let us know how it goes with your galvanized aluminum coin buckets. So.
Yep, and just a regular terry cloth towel or something to use the moss with. Never Dull actually comes with like this cotton stuff, and it actually, you just use it. It has the chemicals in it.
Oh, okay.
So you just kind of pinch some off. It actually kind of looks like insulation. But it doesn't itch like that, and you use it like, and anyway, give it a try and tell me what you think.
Sounds good. Well, Tim, we'll move away from the live chat until we get some more questions in there. But now we have one from Retro Amigo, and he's got two of them here, Tim. He says, the first one is a random question for Tim, or anyone.
Okay.
What's with those weird channels on the back of some arcade tokens? So, Tim, we'll show this here in a second, but you know what he's talking about here? Do you know what Retro Amigo's talking about?
It always catches my attention when we used to do coin collections at Chuck E. Cheese, and we'd run across these. A lot of them will have like 3 engrooved lines or 2 or something. They'll look like these grooves cut into the tokens.
Okay.
And we'll show it in a
Yeah, I was
picture.
about to say, we won't talk about that now. We'll go ahead and kind of answer both of those questions at the same time. The second question he has is, can a coin mech be set up to accept any size coin token? Can I get a cabinet to credit up with either a nickel or a penny? In other words, can the same mech be made to accept any kind of coinage at the same time so that any coin inserted will add a credit? Now, Tim, we talked a little bit about this. I think it was episode 2.5 of the live show where I talk about the Anycoin mech. And
right.
so we may show that here in a second. But let's go ahead and answer his first question here, Tim. What is with those weird channels? So, well, and I'll read it here, Tim.
Okay.
Slotted or grooved tokens are used as an extra layer of security by some operators. An operator would install a special coin slot on their games that had notches for these slots. This helped ensure that people would only buy their tokens from the operator. And Tim, so you'll see the Celebration Station here has 2 of the channels that you were talking about on the back.
I've seen
grooves,
that
slots,
token.
whatever you want to call it. And so what Celebration Station does is they replace all of their little coin inserts to where you have to put it in with those grooves matching, or else it won't take the coin.
Right.
And the reason they do that is so you'll only buy coins from them. And so, I know at Chuck E. Cheese, you guys pretty much accept any size, like, what is it?
0.984
or 94.
Or I think it's 23 or 25 millimeter, because we don't use tokens anymore. But
right.
Here's a great example. In CC's in town,
right.
So we would get CC's tokens all the time in our games, and they would get Chuck E. Cheese tokens. So about once a month, we would get together and do a coin swap.
Right.
So here's some of your tokens back, here's some of my tokens back.
Right.
So the operator had these grooves cut in there, and like you said, special mechs and things that would only take their token, even though it's the same size as maybe my arcade tokens. Without those grooves, it wouldn't work.
Right, and you see the CC's tokens, you guys don't make any money on those because they were already bought at CC's. CC's made the money off of them and vice versa. And so this is to make sure that the operator made the money on the tokens and that you weren't using tokens from anywhere else, basically.
Exactly.
Now, like we said here, Tim, with the mechs, most mechs are designed to just take one currency. Some can take multiples. And, Tim, we talked about the Anycoin mech on that episode 2.5, Tim. And you can see the link there at highscoresaves.com. You can get the Anycoin. And, Tim, if you want to grab it, it's just right down there in that box. We'll re-show it off here. And he's disappeared while he went to go get that. There we go. Okay, so here we go. This is the Anycoin mech version 3. I bought this from highscoresaves.com. Tim, guess what this takes?
Any coin.
Any coin, that's right. So this thing right here will take any coin. Basically all it is a glorified slot, that will basically guide the token or coin to wherever it needs to come out right here, and then drop it on the wire so that it coins up the switch. And so with an any coin, this will take any coin. Now, Tim, like the mechs you guys had at Chuck E. Cheese, though, those could only do quarters and tokens, right?
Right.
But pretty much. Could you have adjusted one to do nickels or pennies or anything like that?
Well, I was thinking about it earlier, and you could do some adjustments. I don't think that you can make it take any coin because there's weights and cradles and there's magnets and things in there that's to keep that from happening.
Uh-huh.
And so even a roll-down mech will reject most pennies and nickels and stuff like that. So That's the only alternative that I am aware of.
Right. So the Anycoin mech will take any coin. There are, I think, some nickel mechs and things like that, because I know there's places that at least have mechs that will take nickels.
Yeah.
So you can get nickels for specific coins if you
Right.
want to. But if you're looking for something to take any coin, you'll have to go with something like the Anycoin mech here in order to do that. And so I think we answered both the questions, right? So slotted and grooved tokens basically were security feature by operators to make sure they made the money. And then on mechs, you either buy one that's kind of compatible. If the coins are close in size, like tokens and cores, you can get it to take both. But if they're not close, a lot of times you'll have to buy a specific mech to take whatever coin you want it to take.
Right. There's a lot of difference in a quarter and a penny. So, you can tweak them just a little bit. There's some screws and some adjustments, or you can take off a piece or something. But to take any coin, you're going to need to go with the Anycoin mech probably.
Sounds good. So Retro Amigo hopefully answers your questions, and have fun, learning all more about tokens, Tim. Everybody likes tokens, right? Tokens are awesome, so we used to love them ourselves.
Great question. We've never been asked
Slaughter
that
Grooves,
before. So.
That's right. We've never been asked that before, so there you go. So thank you, Retro Amigo, and hopefully they answered your questions. So. Okay, Tim, we have one in the chat over here.
Okay.
And he says, what style bit should I use for drilling a new button hole in a metal control panel? I know the size is 1 1/4. And so he's wanting to know what style bit should he use for drilling a new button hole in a metal control panel. Now, Tim, I think Eric, who does, our podcast, he had like a hole punch that he uses on metal control panels.
Wow.
Have you seen those?
No.
It's weird. I'll have to look it up real quick. But while I'm looking it up, why don't you talk to him about the standard way that we recommend usually drilling holes in a metal control panel?
Yeah, normally we go to Lowe's or Home Depot or something, and we get a hole saw, which is basically, I guess we have one sitting around,
I don't,
but has a drill bit all the way through it. That's your pilot hole, and then it's round. He said 1 1/4. Normally, I use 1 1/8. That's my preferred size, because it's just, most buttonholes are 1 inch. So a little bit of 1/8 gives you a little bit more. 1/4 is actually quite a bit to me. That would be a little bit more wiggle room than I would like.
1 1/8, right?
1 1/8 is what I usually recommend. Now 1 1/4 should work just fine though, and you want to make sure it's for metal build, because you'll find them for wood and so forth.
We usually recommend getting the bimetal.
Yeah.
The bimetal hole saw, which I think we have a link to, Tim, in our post on installing a push button.
And we shot a video.
Website.
We showed this on a video
Yeah.
where we're doing buttons on a control panel
Yes.
or something like that. Well, anyway, what's good about if you get the metal, a lot of times it'll work with wood too. But if you get a wood, it won't work with metal,
right?
Or it'll dull it out.
So Eric, who does the Question and Answer podcast, he on one of the episodes mentioned a knockout punch.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a knockout punch?
Yes.
A knockout punch basically will punch a hole in metal. I mean, cleanly, especially if your metal is thin. And I'm looking in here, Tim, to see if I can find like a video. I had a video on here, and I don't know if I could show you guys. But there's a Klein Tools knockout punch video on YouTube. You've got to see this thing. Basically, the guy does the knockout punch, and I'm going to show it to Tim here while we're looking at it. But you can see here, he starts off with, he just drills like a little hole in it, and you'll see him. Now, knockout punches are available at all of your hardware stores. You go to even Harbor Freight, Tim.
So he's putting something on there, and he's screwing something on the bottom.
Right.
Of
So
it,
he drills
on the
a
other
small
side.
hole. He puts it on both sides, and then he basically ratchets it, and as he ratchets it
compresses and pushes down.
It compresses, pushes down, and punches a hole right in the top. Now, I don't know how good this would work depending on the thickness of the metal in your cabinet, but Klein Tools knockout punch set. Do a search on YouTube, find that, try that.
That's K-L
knockout.
K-L-E-I-N.
Yes,
Klein Tools.
Klein Tools.
Just in case you don't,
Yeah,
you
in
guys
case you
don't
guys
know.
don't know.
And anyway, it's so cool though. Anyway, you can ask for it for your birthday or for Christmas. Tell your wife you want a knockout punch.
Right, and I think, somebody said that they're super expensive. There is a knockout punch set from Harbor Freight. So,
Okay.
let's see, it's a 10-piece. It may not have the size that we need, but let's see what Harbor Freight pricing is on it. It looks like it's only $25
Okay.
For the 10-piece, but it may not have the size that we're looking for.
I bet you
right?
it does.
Yeah, so, but it's only $25 from Harbor Freight. It says compare at $102.81, which would be quite expensive.
Right.
But Harbor Freight, cheapest tools a man can buy, right?
I see a video coming up. We're going to have to try this pretty soon.
I was thinking the same thing. But
what else can we knock a punch
and
in?
I think Louis actually linked to it for us. Thank you, Louis, our Facebook moderator there. Thank you so much for that. But yes, knockout punches are super expensive typically, but if you buy the Harbor Freight version, Tim, $25 will get it done.
Or if you're going to use a lot, I mean, that's...
Yeah, if you're going to be using it a lot, absolutely.
I definitely want to try that.
There you go. Video coming up, huh?
Yeah.
There you go. So, Chad, hopefully answers your question. So, yes, you can use the bi-metal 1 1/8 hole saw, Tim, is what we usually use. We have a link to it in our installing a push button video, so you can check that out. Or you can try the knockout punch and see how it works for you. So, hopefully answers your question, Chad. And Tim, I guess we're going to go on here. And the next one we have is from Christopher. And Christopher says, "Hi, I enjoyed your video on the 412-in-1 and purchased one to go in my Pac-Man cabinet. I will have 1 stick and 3 buttons plus a trackball and the 1 and 2 player start buttons. For the wiring, for 2-player alternating, do I wire both the 1-player and 2-player wires to the stick of each of the buttons? The trackball is easy as I got the harness. How do I wire the 1 and 2-player buttons so that the machine knows to alternate between the 2 players with 1 set of controls? I'm new to all of this. I just played these games in the 80s. Any help or hand-drawn diagram for this setup and JAMA box would be greatly appreciated. Thank you." So, Tim, we have Christopher here, and he has a very common question. So, JAMA connectors, Tim, have a 1-player side and a 2-player side that have buttons and joysticks for each. So he's wondering, does he need to wire up both these, even though he only has 1 joystick and 1 set of buttons in his arcade cabinet? Does he need to wire both of them to those controls, or can he just wire 1? What's the answer?
He can just wire 1. Think about it, guys, when you were playing this game. Let's take a game like this one right behind me.
That's right, Galaga.
We played Galaga or Pac-Man. You would take a turn, right? It would be 1 player, then the next player. So most of the games, especially on that, will you'll only need to wire up the 1-player button.
Right. So basically, the 1-player joystick buttons and the 1-player action buttons should be enough.
Yeah.
Right.
The game will switch between the 2 players. So there's not any that you're playing at the same time.
Simultaneous. Right.
Yeah. Maybe there's a couple of games that might be affected like that, but that's kind of with any multi-game board.
Exactly. So, like you mentioned, Tim, for your setup, you will only have to wire up the 1-player joystick and buttons. With that said, make sure you wire up the Player 2 start button so you can start a Player 2 game. And that's important, right, Tim? Because otherwise you won't be able to start your Player 2 game. Okay, most classic games, Pac-Man, Galaga, Donkey Kong, like you mentioned, Tim, only use 1 set of controls for both players, so this won't be an issue. You might want to disable any games in the list that are 2-player simultaneous play. And Tim, on the 412-in-1, I think it's only like 1943 and 1944 or 19XX or something like that actually have 2-player simultaneous play. The rest of them are going to be 2-player alternating play.
Right.
So you won't have to worry about having 2 sets of controls because basically you'll never have 2 players playing at the same time.
Exactly.
But the best thing for you to do, I think, Christopher, is just disable any games that have the simultaneous play. Wire up 1 set of controls, the Player 1 controls, to your joystick and your action buttons, and you should be in good shape for your 412-in-1. Sound good, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm just reiterating what you said. That's
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's nothing special there. So
I read what you typed earlier.
Oh, well, there you go. Christopher, hopefully that answers your question, and good luck wiring up your 412-in-1 board. Okay, Tim, let's move to Adrian. And Adrian says, "Hey guys, I live in the UK and have an arcade cabinet with 36 games, such as 1942, Pac-Man, the old classics. I have the arcade machine in my shed bar." And shed bar, I'm not sure what that is. That may be a British term. I don't know, shed bar. But anyway, I am having problems. The arcade seems to be run by a PC hard drive in the back of the cabinet which connects to the monitor. When I switch it on at the plug, the arcade cabinet lights up, but the screen does not. Occasionally it will say no signal. It's like the hard drive has stopped working. I have unplugged it all and tried different sockets to no avail. I do not know what to do next. Can you help? Or please can you help? Kind regards, Adrian. Okay, Tim, so we have Adrian here, and he's got this kind of 36-in-1 multi-game cabinet, but it's all powered by a PC.
Right.
That's the catch. Okay, so this is not one of our like 16-in-1 boards, 4-in-12-in-1 boards. This is a PC that's in this cabinet.
Okay.
So he's saying that he'll boot it up, and he'll get like no signal every so often, but a lot of times it's just blank. and he doesn't know what to do next. He's tried all these different sockets. He's tried to plug it into different things. What could be going on with Adrian's, issue here to cause it to not boot up?
Well, based on what he's describing, Jonathan, it's very typical with a PC-based game.
Yes.
Especially one if you don't play it for a little while.
Right.
I mean, it didn't take long. Like you skip for a month because it's cold or something.
Sure.
Well, what happens is all PCs just about have a battery, and that backup. Video game PCs don't always come on right at startup.
Right.
You have to go into the BIOS settings to tell them to do that.
Right.
Or in some rare cases, you have to almost trick them to do it.
Now, it's worth saying, too, Tim, that some arcade games have this kind of same mechanism, like Blitz, for instance, has a battery on the board that does kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Just like a PC.
Right. So he has a battery on there that controls that, and those batteries are very prone to go bad, and they just go out after a time. They don't last for a few years.
And when they go out, they lose all of those auto boot up settings and everything else.
Right. So he needs to check and replace the battery on the board.
Sounds good. And Tim, I actually have a screenshot of what that looks like. Tim, in a lot of computers, you're going to see a CR2032. Probably the most common that we have.
Real common.
Right. So it sounds like the computer is not powering up with the arcade cabinet. Most MAME builders, and Tim, this is a very MAME setup that we have here.
Like it.
Right. Will set the computer to come on when it receives power. However, this setting gets lost once the CMOS battery dies. So once that battery dies, it will no longer boot up anymore. So at this point, you'll have to replace the CMOS battery and try changing that BIOS setting back using a keyboard. You'll probably have to physically hook up the keyboard, get in the BIOS, and change it to where it comes on whenever the game powers on, okay?
Right.
So, but here's the thing, you may not be able to do that. If you can't, there is a way that you can jumper into the ATX connector and put a switch there to where when they hit the switch, it comes on.
Right.
And we've actually done this, Tim, on several cocktails that we've gone to work on, or arcade games in general. There's been at least 3 that I can think of where people were having the same problems, is because the battery died and the BIOS setting was lost. In 2 cases, I was able to put a new battery in and change the BIOS setting.
Right.
In 1 case, I physically had to wire up a switch to the ATX connector to where when she pushed it, it would start the game.
That's usually the green wire and a black wire.
Yeah, I can't remember what the combination
is.
is. Yeah, I can't remember what the combination is, but you splice into those,
right,
and then you put a switch in between them, you can hit it, and it'll come on. And so, yeah, you may have to do that. Rare case.
Very rare.
I've had to do it before, but it's kind of a rare case. For the most part, just replacing the CMOS battery, changing the BIOS settings, Tim will get you there.
But obviously, when we first started building MAME and stuff, this is something we would have done.
Absolutely.
But if we've taken the same type of game now, we would just put a 60-in-1 board in there.
Exactly.
You only got 32 games, why not bump it up to 60? So you might want to look at some of our videos about doing that. I would just say, if it's PC based and you're not running full-blown MAME and getting 40,000 games, you might as well run the much cooler and easier to replace and very cheap and inexpensive.
That's a great.
60-in-1.
I tell you what, that's a great suggestion here, Tim. Because then he doesn't have to feel BIOS, CMOS batteries, or anything like that. The only thing is that the wiring may be a lot different.
Yeah.
If they're wiring it to like an iPac, for instance.
Right.
Okay, directly.
Hopefully it's JAMA already and
Right.
has some kind of adapter to that PC. But we can help you with that. Why don't you show us some pictures or let us know if you want to go that route? We'll help you.
Sounds good. So Adrian, hopefully answers your question. Good luck getting your multi-game back up and running, right, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. I had to think about that one for a second. Sorry. Now, guys, remember we have room in the chat here. Live chat. Tim seems a little quiet at the moment. Is there anybody in here?
Yeah.
But anyway, we'd love to hear from you guys if you have thoughts about anything that we've talked about today, of course, or have any questions. Please let us know. Okay, Tim, let's move on here. And it looks like this is our last question, Tim. And this
Okay.
one is from Bruno. And Bruno says, "Hi, thank you for your site and for all the repair vids. I have a 19-inch monitor using a genuine Street Fighter II PCB with ghosting issues. I checked the PCB on another cabinet and it works fine. I have tried adjusting every possible adjustment in the cabinet, the red, green, blue, flyback controls, etc., and a heap of degaussing, but no change. Before I put in a new chassis, is there a possible fix? Thanks." Okay, Tim, so from Bruno's description, before I show you any of the answers,
Right.
what do you think's going on here?
Well, I do like that, it could have been a board problem, but he solved that.
Right, exactly. He actually took the board to another cabinet, plugged it in, right?
And it worked fine.
Right.
So we eliminate the board off the bat.
Right. So we know that there's a problem in our cabinet.
Right. And he's tried adjusting, but nothing's really helping.
Right.
So anytime you're adjusting and it's not even getting worse or better, then we kind of suspect in the monitor there's something going on with that.
Right, and Tim, I actually have some pictures of what Bruno's monitor looks like, and you can see here that behind the characters, especially in the area behind, like here, and then also off to the side here, that we're getting a lot of this like little weird looking, like you said, ghosting. Right, is exactly the term I would use, and so you'll see all this and everything. And Tim, like, this looks really bad, right? But it's probably not as bad as what it looks, correct?
No, most of the time this is highly, it's like a poster child for needing a cap kit.
Oh, okay. A poster child.
Yeah.
You're gonna put that one on the milk carton, and we're gonna be like searching for a cap kit. This is what you need. So.
This one probably does need a cap kit.
And Tim, I put an example here as another one. This one right here was one that you see here. This picture was one that needed a cap kit, looked beautiful afterwards. And so since the PCB works fine in another cabinet, we can assume that the problem is something in this cabinet. Image ghosting is common on CRT monitors, usually caused by bad capacitors. Of course, if you have a new chassis ready to go, which he said he could swap in a new chassis, Tim.
Yeah.
If you've got one ready to go, put it in, right?
Right.
Oh, I mean, why not? But otherwise, you may want to install a cap kit on the monitor. And Tim, I don't have an after picture of this monitor, but it looked beautiful after this one in particular. And you can see it's having a very similar ghosting issue as what our friend Bruno is having on his. So
Right.
I think a cap kit in this particular case will definitely solve this
Some
issue.
people will call them, like, you'll see how that one has like the jail bars, or a lot of times they'll be up and down.
Right.
And people will say they look like jail bars.
Right.
It's that ghosting type issues that we often see that say, oh, this game needs a cap.
There you go. So Bruno,
Tube
hopefully,
rejuvenation wouldn't hurt, but
Yeah,
a cap,
absolutely.
But a cap kit would probably solve this problem.
absolutely. So Bruno, hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting that Street Fighter 2 monitor back up and running 100%. Now, Tim, we're through with the kind of prepared questions. Pre-prepared
Okay.
questions. But we do have a couple more in the chat here, and we'll go to this one here. It looks like Paragon 21. Is there a particular website or supplier that you recommend for arcade parts? In the past week, I've ordered 3 different parts from 3 different sites. So, Tim, this is a great question because it seems like our go-to supplier is no longer supplying.
Yeah, right.
Right, so...
2 years ago, that would have been a quick, easy answer. But here's the great news about that. We actually have several that we can recommend, and we do the same. When we order parts, I just go by sometimes they have sales. Now, we do like certain people, and they're listed on our website that we know and we trust.
Our resources page, arcaderepairtips.com/resources.
But we really haven't found any bad guys.
Nope, not too many.
Not any lately, or
I
most of those.
can name a couple that we like to order from just right off the top. Holland Computers.
Yes. we definitely
HollandComputers.com or RetroArcade.us. There's a banner on our site, Tim, where you can find that. You guys can go there. The other one would be Twisted Quarter.
Right.
We order a lot of stuff from Twisted
Cajun
Quarter.
Arcade.
Yeah, Cajun Arcade.
Paradise Arcade.
Paradise Arcade Shop.
Mike's Arcade.
Yeah.
I mean, Arcade Shop.
HighScoreSaves.com.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many that we order from. I mean, and we're the same way. We order from who has the best price.
And some of them kind of specialize in certain parts.
Mike's Arcade, a lot of Nintendo stuff.
Yeah,
there.
a lot of Nintendo stuff. So, being that, and we kind of like to spread the love a little bit, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we'll buy some certain things, but that's what having the internet is all about. We can kind of shop, and some people have sales. I know Holland Computer will throw on. They just had a big 4th of July sale.
They did.
They have good prices on monitors.
But like
and
Holland
stuff.
Computers doesn't a lot of times sell the component stuff that you're looking for, right? And so that's why places like Twisted Quarter, Tim, or Syracuse Semiconductor, some of these other places sell like the component level stuff that you're looking for.
And I still find a lot of parts on eBay and at good prices.
But Bob Roberts, unfortunately, basically hasn't been shipping anything since October, right, Tim?
Right. And
now,
we hope that he comes back or that somebody is able to help him and get his. But there's still a lot of good resources on his page. Thank you for leaving
the page up, because
stuff up.
There's still a lot of stuff that we link to, a lot of stuff that we'd even discussed on previous live shows, Tim.
Yeah, but gosh, it's like I said, the fact is there's plenty. Now we got down to artwork, we get a little more picky. We cut that list a little smaller. But all those people we have mentioned, we have had good experiences with. Most great customer service, fast shipping. So, we use Pinball Life sometimes for pinball parts.
Absolutely.
But we also
Marco Specialty
crosses over into a lot of that stuff. So the more the merrier. Competition is good.
Suzo Hap, is good.
I I buy now for the home collector. I noticed, don't they have like a $25
There's a minimum
order? See, I don't have that at work, but most time my order's over $25.
Are you still
anyway.
ordering parts from Betson as well?
I do order some things from Betson. Like I said, there's kind of some stuff they're pretty good at, or that supports their particular games a little better. But yeah, Hap is definitely a go-to. And
the thing about Hap, though, is a lot of times you can get the same parts cheaper through one of their distributors. Because what their distributors will do is they'll order in bulk.
Right.
And then they'll undercut Hap a lot of times. I've noticed that. Because when you're an individual buying from Hap, you're buying one.
Right.
But, you know, what these distributors will do is they'll buy like 100 of them and then sell them just a little bit above what the 100 price is, but below the Hap price. And so sometimes you'll see distributors undercut Hap just by a little bit.
But
Twisted Quarter is a great example.
The exciting thing is that we have options.
Yes.
You know, before it was like there was still stuff we couldn't even get anywhere. And so the fact that we have a lot of good, and a lot of it is just basically collectors that saw a niche or saw a need and decided to offer and find parts and hunt them down. So, you know, we're very happy with everybody that we've listed, and I'm sure we've missed one or two.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe more, but
ArcadeRepairTips.com/resources.
look at our resource page. You'll see those. These are people that we buy from personally. We won't recommend anybody. We don't put anybody on our page that we haven't bought something from, we haven't had good experiences from.
Exactly. So check that out. Lots of great distributors there.
And,
Tim,
and there may be a few new people that I'm not even aware of. So.
Absolutely. So now, Tim, we got one more question here. Hey, guys, I have a T2 where the crosshair shakes and they don't stay steady. Check the pots and they're okay. Any ideas? Now, Tim, I'm assuming he's talking about a Terminator 2.
Yes.
Okay, so Terminator 2 uses a potentiometer type light gun.
Right.
And so with that in mind, Tim, I mean, I know you've had several of those over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Alien Resurrection, some other ones. So what would cause the crosshairs to shake and not stay steady?
Well, usually it is the pot.
Okay.
He said he checked the pots. I can tell you right now that I've had pots that check just fine, but what happens is the stem of the pot will get a little loose.
Okay.
And over time, just from playing and wear, I would still number one, if you think the pot is fine, I would reflow the solder and the connections to them.
Okay.
Make sure that it's getting a really good connection. Or you're wiring to the pot all the way back. Make sure there's no kinks or bad breaks. You know, any part of that, check for continuity from your pot to your board. If it is, make sure that your gear is tight. There should be a little Allen wrench or something. Make sure that gear is tightened on there so that you don't have any wiggle room there. Most of the time that jumpiness is caused by some kind of little interference or a little bit of wiggle. That's where I would go ahead and, if those pots hadn't been replaced in the last 10 years, which I doubt they have, I would go ahead, even though they're reading okay. And I know what he means. You can read them with a meter, and I've had some, I just scratch my head, say, you know, I don't know why. Went ahead and replaced the pot, bam, it fixed it. So I can say that based on experience. If you put a new pot, and that is happening, very rare that it is a board issue, that something on your board, like a filter cap or something, is just not doing what it's supposed to do, or you got a grounding issue. That could cause some problems like that. But those are some things I really, you know, it's that 95 times out of 100, it's that pot, whether you read's good or not.
Right. Okay, and I have one more here, and then we'll get into the discussion.
No problem.
I want to try to get as many in as possible. Yeah. And it looks like, let's see, Taoist Rights says, where would I get a monitor for a Gauntlet 1 arcade?
Okay.
Well, pretty much anywhere, right? I mean, you just need to make sure.
You can go to Walmart.
Well, you can't go to Walmart. But I mean, as far as the suppliers that we talked about earlier, a lot of suppliers.
Check our resource page.
Right. But you need to make sure that whichever one you get, it supports the standard arcade resolution. There are some that only support VGA resolution.
Right.
Some LCD monitors that only support VGA. You want to make sure you get one that supports the 15 kilohertz standard monitor resolution for arcades. And Tim, they're very available. A lot of times they come as like a tri-sync.
Yes.
Right, is what they'll say, tri-sync LCD monitor, or you know, it'll say standard arcade compatible, something like that.
One thing that we
run about $200 for a 19.
Yeah, one thing that we forget to mention a lot of times is Wells Gardner is still in business.
Yes.
You know, and you hear that name going back to the Pac-Man era. So, I mean, why not support somebody that's been around and knows a lot about arcade monitors? So you can go to Wells Gardner and you can order from them. You don't have to be an operator. You can order straight from their site. I highly would recommend one of their monitors.
But you can also get them from like Holland Computers, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, Tim, and they run good sales.
That's
They may
true.
not be as good as the Wells Garners, but they will be cheaper.
Yes.
So I mean, that's what you're looking for. But about $200 or $300 is probably what you're looking at for a nice 19-inch monitor, correct?
Oh, yeah.
LCD, that's going to be
If
compatible.
he's playing Gauntlet, he may have a 25-inch, but the TriSync monitors. Make sure that we would call CGA,
Right, the CGA resolution.
You see, you need to have the CGA, their old standard type resolution.
Absolutely. Okay, Tim, well, I think we got through all the questions in the live chat. If you guys have more, send them there. We'll try to get to them before the end of the show. But, Tim, let's go ahead and go into some of the discussion that we teased earlier, right?
Okay.
So the first one we have here is the big news that Nintendo has announced the Super NES Classic Edition. And, Tim, here's a link here on Nintendo's website where you can see it. So here's all the details. The price is going to be $80.
Okay.
MSRP. Okay? You may
Right,
end up paying
not
more
eBay.
right on eBay. But,
$2,100 on eBay.
that's
yeah.
right. The release date is going to be September 29th, and the pre-orders for the USA are going to be announced soon. They
Okay.
have pre-ordered them in Europe and France and other places all over, but not here.
Okay.
No pre-orders have gone live here yet, and I don't know why. People are saying it has to do with maybe FCC approval or something like that. Maybe why. Now, here's the deal, Tim. It comes with 2 controllers, 21 games, and it includes Star Fox 2, which was never released.
Right.
Finished, but never released.
What other games are we looking at coming?
Here, I'll show you the list. Here we go. Okay, so we have, and Tim, these are like the staples, right? This is
Right.
like the meat and potatoes of the Super Nintendo library.
I want to say right off the bat, I love the list. If
Yeah.
you're just talking about comparing it to the NES, this is a good list.
Right, so here we got Super Mario World, we have Super Mario Kart, we got Zelda, A Link to the Past, we have F-Zero, Super Metroid, Star Fox 2, and then you'll see Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Punch-Out, Castlevania 4, Donkey Kong Country, Mega Man X, Kirby Superstar, Final Fantasy 3, Kirby's Dream Course, I think is what that is, Star Fox, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario RPG, Contra 3, Secret of Mana, Earthbound, and Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Right? Yes, Super Ghouls and Ghost. So there you go. That's the entire games list, Tim. That's a lot of good games.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, that is some great stuff. Getting your hands on this is going to be near impossible, it seems like. But we have been posting the pre-order links, Tim, as
Right.
they come available on our Facebook page. So if you're not subscribed there, I would highly recommend doing that. We will be trying to keep as close a tabs on this as possible. So stay tuned to Twitter and Facebook for when things go live. We'll try to let you know as soon as we see pre-orders happen somewhere, okay?
Right.
We're going to try to help you get one of these. Right, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
That's our whole goal. We did that with the NES Classic. We're going to try to do this with the Super NES Classic as well. So, just hang in there. We're going to try to give you all the information as it becomes available. Tim, we have a lot of resources. A lot of
Yes.
people we know. A lot of
Right.
connections. I'm just saying. So we're going to hook you up. We'll try to give you the best information on where to find those. Make sure you're signed up on our Facebook page and on our Twitter feed in case you're interested in that. Now, Tim, speaking of the NES Classic, okay, shortly after the the Super NES Classic was announced,
Right.
the NES Classic started to appear in Toys R Us stores. Okay, and there's actually a link here to a story. Several Toys R Us stores have restocked the NES Classic within the last week.
Right.
Okay, this thing has been sold out since like what? Like April.
Right.
Right? Or March or something like that. But all of a sudden we're starting to see more of them in Toys R Us stores.
Amazing.
We're not just talking about like maybe one unit here, one unit there. We're talking about like one store receiving 20 units. And this picture is from a guy on Reddit. And how many are there, Tim? Like 6, 5? Something like that. So, check your local Toys R Us right now.
Right.
And go see if they got some. I've called around to all of the local ones to us, and I had several report that they either got some or are getting some.
Right.
Okay, so if you have a Toys R Us close to you, go by, call them, find out if they got any in stock or if they're going to be getting any in stock. One guy was nice enough to let me know that they should be getting some next week. Okay, which is
cool.
really awesome. So I'm just saying, if you're looking for an NES Classic, don't give up despair. Don't pay the $400 on eBay just yet, Tim.
Right.
Just yet. Okay, go to your local Toys R Us store, see if you can find one, call every Toys R Us in your area, and maybe you can score one, Tim, for that $60 price tag instead of the $400.
That would be nice.
So there you go. So hopefully you guys can score one. Now, if you have any thoughts about the Super NES Classic or the NES Classic, please let us know in the live chat. We'll be happy to discuss those as we go on here, Tim. But I wanted to do a new segment this month.
Okay.
Because we've gotten a lot of interest in classic console games and stuff.
Seems to be a really hot trend right now. A lot
Right.
of
So I
people
thought that we would talk about something that was a little arcade, a little
Okay.
console. Okay. So I'm going to call this segment Jonathan's Classic Console Closet.
Okay.
Because I have a
You got a
closet.
big closet.
I've got a big closet that's got a lot of classic games and crap in it. Okay. and what I will do for every live show is I will pull out one
Okay.
of the objects in my classic console closet, and we will do a little segment on it. And
All
so,
right. So what's the first month's?
the first
thing?
month is going to be Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and Tim, I'm doing this in honor of the Super NES Classic, as it has this game on it. Okay,
Okay.
this is one of the games that's on it. And Tim, this game is a port of Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting in the arcade.
Yes.
Which I have the arcade version as well. It was released in August 1993 in North America. Contains Championship Edition, normal mode. So you can actually play the Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition and Street Fighter 2 Turbo on this. It features adjustable turbo, so you can really speed up the game if you really want to. And it was the first time you could play with the boss characters, Tim. They'd released Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo before this, but you couldn't play with the boss characters. And so, Tim, what we have here is my actual cartridge. So there you go. This is Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So this is the one, and this will be included on the Super NES Classic.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah, it's pretty rough shape, though, I will say. I think a dog got to this one. Probably got it at a garage sale or something like that. But, yeah, I mean, hey, you gotta love Super Nintendo games, right? I mean, I was a kid, played this thing all the time. So, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Of course, you can play the arcade version. Hyper Fighting was awesome as well, and Champion Edition. But, Tim, I probably played this more than the arcade edition, I would imagine. So,
Wow. I imagine
it's been
me
played
too.
quite a bit. Okay. So, Tim, is there anything else you want to discuss?
Is there anything else in the chat room?
I don't know. I see what the he. I see thank you. I appreciate it. I see some thank yous. Tim, I did want to mention one thing. I got a...
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. I got a text from Mark, who has participated on our Facebook page quite a bit. And they have released Star Wars Pinball play footage. Like
Okay.
gameplay footage. And he says it looks great. Now, we
So-
have not seen this ourselves. Have you seen it?
No, can you go to like Stern's website and get this?
I think
or-
it's on the Dead Flip YouTube page.
Okay.
Okay, I
Just
think
kinda
it's what
leaked
it
it
is.
out a little
Right.
bit.
I mean, you can't. I think it's also linked on Stern's page as well. But he says it looks great, and I think Tim Mark's gonna pull the trigger on one.
Wow.
So I have not seen it yet. If you guys have seen it, let us know what you think of the Star Wars pinball machine. Tim, it looked really great in the pictures. And Steve Ritchie, always puts out good games for the most part. So I mean, this one I expect
When is
nothing
the
less from.
expected release? Have you heard yet?
I am not sure. That is a great question.
But it's got to be getting pretty close, right?
Right,
They're
because
got videos of it playing.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's good.
Right, exactly. I think at least we're in the final stages of it, so I don't know exactly when it's going to be released. But Star Wars Pinball looks like it's going to be a really great game. I think we'll get to play it at Houston, hopefully. Tim.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to in November. So, but for the most part, Tim, I'm excited about it. I know you are too. And Mark is definitely excited. And if Mark ends up picking one, Mark, if you end up picking one,
We need to come visit.
We're going to come visit you. That's right. So that's awesome there. So if you haven't seen it yet, go on there, check it out, and watch the video and let us know what you think. You guys can leave the comments on this live show page if you want to, or if we're here still, you can always leave them in the live chat as well. Okay, Tim, here we go. We have one more here from Taoist Wrights. He says, I have an E-Dot. Can I change the power cord, or am I still K? I'm not sure what that means. So, environmental disk of Tron, E-Dot,
Okay.
is usually what that is. He says, can I change the power cord, or am I still, and I can't read the rest of it, am I stuck with the original power cord?
Gotcha.
Hey, there we go.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, got in there just right in time. Okay, so is he stuck with the original power cord, or can he change it out?
No, you can change any power cord.
Right, it doesn't matter on the game, correct?
Right.
And we actually have a video on that, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, replacing a power cord on an arcade game.
In fact, we highly recommend that if your power cord is 20 years old, especially, those flat kind that have like 3 ridges on them, and they're real. They used to be in Pac-Man a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I would highly recommend replacing them any chance that you get, and you can definitely replace with a new power cord. It does a lot of good, and it helps your game to be great, especially if the ground is broken or anything. By all means, you can replace that cord.
Sounds
and you
good.
can get them from most of our suppliers that we talked about earlier too, or even locally, like at a Harbor Freight or something.
Right, and another thing, Tim, and speaking specifically about the power plug, a lot of times an operator will pull out that ground, in order to plug it into like a two-prong socket, and you really want that ground prong if you have it available. And so that's another reason why you want to replace the cord or the plug, is to make sure that your game is properly grounded. Tim, I think we're going to wrap it up right there, so let's go ahead and talk about the contact information real quick. Guys, we have our general email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Remember, if you put live show in the subject, you will get it mentioned on the show, which means that Tim and me will go over them and we'll put them specifically on the live show. Right, Tim?
Right.
So questions@arcaderepairtips.com, put live show in the subject to get it mentioned here. We also have our YouTube page, which you're on right now if you're watching this video, and that's at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Comments from the last live show will be covered on the next episode with Tim and Jonathan, of course.
Yeah.
But we also have a podcast, and that's at podcast@arcaderepairtips.com, and those go to our friends Eric and Chris, who host that podcast. And you guys can give them reviews at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com or stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com if you guys want to check them out. Tim, if you like podcasts and you like radio shows, you really need to check out the Question and Answer podcast with Eric and Chris. They do a really good job.
Oh, yeah, they do.
And, hey, we talked about the Knockout Punch today, which was something that Eric actually recommended on the show. So you'd be getting all that great information right there. Listen to it while you're on trips, Tim. It's kind of hard to watch a video on a trip, but you sure can listen to a radio show. So, but the podcast is great for that. If you want to email them, that's podcast@arcaderepairtips.com. And Tim, we have our social media pages, and that's at our Facebook page is at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com, and our Twitter feed is at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. And Tim, we want to thank Louie, who is in the live chat tonight, and for doing all of the great stuff that he does on the Facebook page. He will answer your questions there. Other people will answer your questions as well. But it's a great place, Tim, to connect with our network and get updates as to when the Super NES Classic Edition will become available. We will try to keep you posted on that information as soon as possible, right? Okay, Tim, we're gonna sneak one in here real quick. We've got one from Happy Adam. What's the trigger price that you look for on a 90s pinball machine? In other words, what price makes it a good deal? So most 90s pinball machines, Tim, have DMDs, right?
Yes.
But it really depends on the game. Because, there's some 90s pins that have DMDs that go for like $2,000.
Right.
And under. And then there are some, like Addams Family, Twilight Zone, that go for, thousands, like 8,000 or so, depending on condition, right?
Right.
And so, I don't know what the pull trigger price would be. I'd say if you could find one for $1,500 or under, that would almost be worth it for pretty much any 90s pin with a DMD, right?
Yeah, I think so. I would say 1,000 or less, you got it.
You just pull the trigger.
Yeah, you just go get it.
So $1,000 or less for a DMD 90s game, I think, Tim, is a pretty good trigger price for it.
Non-working, we're probably, to get me to buy it, it's probably going to be around that $500 range if
right,
it's not working.
Because you're going to have to put some work, depending on the work.
Right.
Depending on what's not working.
Oh, I think I'd almost pay $500 if it's complete.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If it's a 90s or above like he's asking. So those are a couple of our, just got to pull the trigger and get them. And then depending on the game, if we saw a Twilight Zone in the paper for $2,000 or more, we'd probably buy it.
Absolutely. So it depends on the game. It definitely does. And Louis mentioned that too. Depends on the pinball machine. Prices are all over the board.
They really are.
Correct. It just depends on the title and what you're looking for. So, but Tim, I'm about ready to wrap it up.
All right.
Do you want to do an after show?
Sure.
There'll be an after show here after we take a quick restroom break and and rest our voices for a minute. But we'll take a quick little break. We'll come back for the after show. If you like non-arcade related stuff, Tim, you can stay on for the after show. Otherwise, thanks for joining us for this special live show, Tim, episode 5, July 2017 edition. And guys, remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, Tim, when you fix the game, you play the game. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Woo. That was a long show.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
fine.
by the way, guys, I want to thank Tim right here while we're on the air in the after show. This is the after show.
Okay.
Okay, just so anything goes. In the after show, Tim, I want to thank you for making a Taco Cabana run for me today.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, Taco Cabana, if you guys have never been there, is a great taco place to eat, Tim. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
and we used to have one here where we live, but they closed it, and they opened another one 45 minutes away in a town that you work in.
Right.
And so you were kind enough to bring me some today, and I appreciate the delivery of my Taco Cabana.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So I was going to
enjoyed
say it
them.
on the air. I wanted everybody to know here that I appreciate the sacrifices Tim made to go by and get me some Taco Cabana.
Well, it was a whole, 5 minutes out of the way. But
Oh,
it was
5
worth
minutes
it,
out
so.
of the way.
And if you have a Taco Cabana in your neighborhood,
You should go.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Appreciate what you have.
Yes, appreciate what you have. We used to have one, and we no longer do. Tim, the only time I get it otherwise would be when we go to Dallas.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely beats Taco Bell.
Oh,
Okay.
big time. And Taco Bueno.
Yeah.
Best fast food Mexican you can have.
There you
in
go.
my opinion. Anyway. So, Tim, what do you want to talk about?
Well,
I've got an outline. You don't have to go by that.
I thought your outline was pretty interesting.
Okay, well, I'll put it up here. Okay.
I still haven't tried these, but
Okay, Dollar Tree. Have you been to Dollar Tree? Do you know what
I've
Dollar Tree is?
I go to Dollar Tree.
I go to Dollar Tree too. It's the
Okay.
$1 store. Everything's $1.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you got to watch what you get there because some stuff's not even worth $1.
Oh, you're exactly right. And so what we're going to talk about
But some
is
stuff.
right. They sell $1 ribeye steaks, Tim.
That's almost unbelievable.
Right. So you'll see the very top line there. They sell $1 ribeye steaks. Think about that for a sec. Think about that.
I could eat a ribeye 3 times a day at that price.
Okay, now these things are like, I think, half an ounce to 2.5 ounces.
They got to be pretty small.
Yeah, frozen.
Pretty thin.
Okay, now there's a really funny review on this website that I listed here, this trendingbuffalo.com, the 60-second review of the $1 ribeye steak from Dollar Tree. You guys need to check that out. It's
Okay.
pretty funny. But basically, these things are like paper thin, Tim. I mean, it would take like 10 of them or more to make like an actual ribeye steak.
So then it would be the same price as a normal ribeye.
Exactly, you got it. So, I mean, some things aren't worth the money. But here's the thing, Tim. I have a feeling if you battered it up and fried it, it would taste just as good as anything else.
I
So,
bet. I'd like to try
it. You're going to try one?
Yeah.
If you try
Try
one,
it on
let
my
us
way
know.
home.
So, but a $1 ribeye steak, I don't know. It sounds dangerous to my health. Who knows if it's even cow?
I see those places that say 20 ribeyes for $10.
Yes.
$10 for $20.
Right.
I've always wanted to stop by them, but I'm a little leery about.
Read that review before you go buy
I'm
one.
gonna check that.
Yeah, read the review before you go to buy one. I promise, just to make sure, it's what you're looking for or whatever. Now, Tim, another thing is that I don't know if you're watching this. This after show outline was for last month, but we didn't have time.
Right.
You had to kind of go Chuck E. Cheese emergency, if I remember.
Yeah, I think we did.
So, I was watching the Mr. Rogers Marathon on Twitch, okay, because they were having a marathon where they were running Mr. Rogers basically all day long.
Okay.
And I found one where an operator opens up a Donkey Kong machine.
That's pretty cool.
Right. And I thought that is pretty cool. It's episode 1514. And if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can watch it for free at this little link right here, Amazon.2, and all of this weird junk behind it.
Gosh, just think of that. Is that episode 1,500?
No, I don't think so. I think it goes a little bit different. That's season 15, episode 14, or
Still,
something
though,
like that.
that's
It's still
a lot
a lot.
of episodes.
Still a lot of episodes. He had a ton of them. And so you can actually see it. He flips over the control panel, lets you see the wiring, opens up the coin door, pulls, and lets you see the wiring and everything. It's pretty
wow.
neat. And it is a Donkey Kong machine. It's in pretty good condition, as you would imagine, as it's probably pretty new at that point. And so you guys can check out that Mr. Rogers episode. That's pretty awesome, too. So that's, again, here, I'll put it back here. That's at episode 1514. You can see an operator open up a Donkey Kong machine on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And Amazon Prime members can watch it for free at this link right here. Okay, Tim. So let's talk about some movies we've seen recently. And this has actually been updated since we've
summer
been here.
blockbusters, there's usually some really good stuff. Nothing that's just been saying, go, you got to see it.
But you did see Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Yeah, well,
What'd you think?
My wife's a huge Johnny Depp fan, so, had to take her. And I liked it. I thought it was really good, and it kind of ends the series well and wraps up everything. Some people are like, oh, once you've seen them, you've seen them. I don't know. I liked it. It was entertaining.
I've heard that's actually really good. Believe it or not, I'm not a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan.
Really?
I've seen the first one. It's good. But after that, I lost interest.
Yeah, see, I like them, and
Right.
I thought it was great. Great ending.
I heard
Wrapped
it was
everything
great.
up, kind of tied everything back together, and you could kind of tell they didn't plan on making any more. Didn't leave you a cliffhanger for the next one. Star Wars style or nothing.
Right.
You know, it was kind of like, this is it. So it was good. If you've been watching them, I think you would enjoy it.
So
Especially-
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales gets a thumbs up from Tim.
yeah, but
Thumbs up, thumbs down scale.
But you got to see the movie. I have never got a chance around to go see.
I got to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. It was great. It's hard to be as good as the first one.
Sure.
Okay, I will say that. I think it holds its own, not as good as the first one. Makes sense? It's
Yeah.
good, though. It's definitely worth checking out. Tim, I think the big thing about Guardians of the Galaxy is I love the characters. I like crazy raccoons and big trees and all this kind of stuff. I love the characters in it, and so Volume 2 is just a continuation of those characters and their story. So if you like the first one, you'll definitely like the second one. I wouldn't go as far to say greatest movie ever, but definitely worth watching if you enjoy Marvel movies. And so thumbs up, big time on Guardians of the Galaxy. So Volume 2. That is so, and I need to get the soundtrack, which I think they're going to be releasing on vinyl pretty soon. So, it always has a good soundtrack.
Yeah.
Okay, and this one is no exception. Great songs in there. Throughout the movie, just awesome.
It's like how TV has changed. We kicked the cable to the curb a long time ago. Just really getting into just binge watching on Netflix, and I just kind of jumped from one show to the other.
So, what are you watching now?
I'm watching Quantico.
Quantico. I have seen this show, ABC, right?
Yes. And it has 2 seasons on Netflix, about 24 episodes per season. They're 45 minutes if you like those kind of long shows that
Right.
I can watch one a night. And
So give us the 2-minute synopsis.
A 2-minute synopsis. It's about Quantico is where the FBI agents get trained. They go through their training, and right after training, a terrorist bomb takes place. And they got a tip that it was one of the agents.
Wow.
And they naturally blame one of the girls. She has a Middle Eastern look, kind of,
Right.
to her. She's of that descent, Libyan or something. And she claims to be totally innocent, and she has to be on the run. She's still an FBI agent. She's very good. Try to figure out who's framing her. That's pretty much the synopsis. Reminds me a lot of 24, and I know you like 24.
Yes, I do like.
And my wife likes it, and we've been watching every night, and kind of excited to see what happens the next night. It's kind of we've really gotten into it, but she hates that it flips back and forth because it goes back to the training, back and back and back and back. It does do that. If that's not your style, or you can't tell, because she'll be like, "Are we in the present day, or is this 9 months ago?" So it does a lot of that switching.
Like Arrow.
Yes.
Arrow does that too.
Arrow a lot.
Yeah.
So that's been my go-to show lately, and I've watched. We all mentioned talking about the Wonder Years, kind of going back and seeing all those episodes again.
I'm still watching them. I'm going through. I just got to the one where Kevin's dad buys a new car. I remember that one. That one's a pretty famous one. And then I got
I'm farther ahead of you.
Oh, you're ahead of me.
I'm
And then
ahead
the
of
one,
you.
the math teacher squared, the second math teacher one that they did.
Yeah.
Where the cheating scandal thing. I
Yes.
don't want to give away too much. You guys need to watch The Wonder Years. The Wonder Years is great.
The Wonder Years,
Golly,
I
it was
forgot
such
what a good show
Yeah.
it was, and kind of just that time kind of brings you back. Even though it's funny because it's before arcade games too, So
It's an 80s view of the 60s, the
Yeah.
late 60s, early 70s.
right.
But it was all done in the 80s.
Right.
Kind of like the Goldbergs is like a 2000s view of what the 80s used to be.
Right.
Right. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting. The narrator does so well. Fred Savage was such a good child actor.
Mm-hmm.
You forget how good he was. It's an excellent show. I love that show.
So I'll have my little sitcoms. I've been watching Last Man Standing, and that, and because I don't want to watch just drama or just fighting and stuff.
Now, Louis said
That
he
makes
loves
them
Arrow. Let me say that. I love Arrow. Arrow is amazing. This season, the cliffhanger at the end, though, is still driving me nuts. It was like the best season ending of anything
This is
ever.
season 4?
Five.
Okay.
Five,
So you're
four,
watching
one
it
or the other.
live on.
Well,
the
I've
DVD?
already seen them all, yeah.
Okay.
Right now it's on hiatus. But it left with a big cliffhanger.
Ah,
big
okay.
cliffhanger. I'm not going to spoil anything. The cliffhanger was awesome. But now I'm wondering, who's going to survive the cliffhanger?
And
you know what I'm saying?
See, I'm weird because I got so into it on Netflix, and then when I was waiting so much for the next season to get released, and by the time it got released, I kind of, I got onto something else. So
Well, here's the
Arrow's
thing.
I'm gonna come back and revisit
Two
that
and
one.
three, seasons 2 and 3 are rough.
Yeah.
Okay? But it gets better. Okay? Just stick with it.
Okay.
Oh, no, not seasons 2 and 3. 3 and 4. Seasons 3 and 4 are rough. Seasons 1 and 2 are incredible.
Yes.
Seasons 3 and 4 are rough. Season 5 is incredible.
It comes
back around.
with vengeance.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really good. Arrow is a really good one. In case you guys didn't know, we're in the after show. We're done with the arcade talk. So if you're still here expecting us to talk about questions, we will. If somebody has something, but the outline is basically just us BSing for a while, right? And just talking about
pretty
whatever.
much.
So, another movie I saw, I forgot to mention, Wonder Woman.
Oh, okay.
Wonder Woman was excellent.
You know what's funny? How many guys... I know that, you know, the movie is kind of catered to the young preteen. I see a lot of girls with their little Wonder Woman costumes on and stuff, and I think that's great. But a lot of guys said they liked it. They said it was good. It's good action.
Very much Captain America, the First Avenger. That movie. I don't like it as much as that movie for a couple reasons. One, I felt like that movie was funnier. It had a couple lighter points in it. Wonder Woman's pretty dark. Okay, there are some times where they kind of break it up, but not as much as you see in the Marvel movies. The Marvel movies, they tend to break up that stuff a lot more.
I see.
And the DC movies, I've noticed, are very dark all the way through. If you've seen any of the new movies,
Batman
right?
and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically dark the whole way through. Wonder Woman is very dark the entire way. It does have some lighter portions, but the fight scenes are pretty dark. Everything's pretty dark. Captain America had some lighter portions that I liked better, and I like the heaviness with the lightness. I like throw a couple jokes in there and then have a big heavy battle or something like that. But it was pretty heavy. That was my only downside to it. But other than that, fantastic movie, definitely worth watching. Big thumbs up. So I'm trying to think if I saw anything that I didn't like recently. Golly, I don't think so. Most of the time, I try to go to movies that I know I'm going to like up front.
Right.
You know, I do want to see Cars 3. Okay, that's on my list because I like the first Cars was great. The second Cars was terrible. But I hear this one kind of disowns Cars 2, so I'm excited about that. What else, Tim? Spider-Man Homecoming is coming out tomorrow, right? Yeah. And you can go see the midnight showing tonight. I'm gonna go see it, or I'll see it at some point, but it's not that important.
Opening night,
right? Exactly. I'm not opening night seeing it, but that's about it. Tim, you got anything else to talk about? Any other shows you've been watching? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've been watching. Baseball. Watching a lot of baseball.
It's baseball season.
It's baseball season.
How's our team doing?
Terrible.
Terrible. They were streaky there for a while, aren't they?
Well, if you want a good team, you need to become a Houston Astros fan.
Yeah, they're beating everybody, aren't they?
There you go. So I think Tim, we also put on here one other thing on the outline: summer vacation ideas. Do you want to talk about that? Did you have anything in mind? You went to vacation.
We did with the family, and we'd like to do something else before the summer is out. You know, trying to get out of the typical just go to the beach or just, which is fine. You know, we don't live near a beach, so it's quite a trek for us to go, and we like to go, and it's fun. So those of you who do, you know, that's what a treat to just go to the beach real quick. But to try to do but then again, you want to do those summer things that are fun, like water parks and things that get so hot here in Texas.
Yeah, we're going to a water park tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you are. That's right. We got invited to that.
You coming?
I don't know.
Okay.
We have to register or something online.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if it's too late or not.
Maybe.
Go check. But yeah.
Yeah, because your whole church is renting a water park.
My church is renting a water park.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I knew about that.
There you go. And you are invited. You can be invited. So make sure you can still register. I don't know if it's too late, but if you can.
Yeah, Louis says we need to come to Myrtle Beach.
Well, I've been to Myrtle Beach. I've met Louis there before.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some really good spots, but you know, kind of like we were watching this video, you know, and it was playing, you know, about from shore to shore and about how beautiful our country is. And a guy was from Scotland was wanting to come and visit the United States. He's like, where all should I go and visit? And really, when you think about it, wow, you know, I mean, it's hard to say, well, just go here or go there. Every state has something to offer, and there's so many good things. So I am proud to be an American where we live, and I like that people come here and think it's neat.
Yeah.
I think.
But we go other places and think it's neat
pine
too.
trees doesn't really impress me much. But people come here and they vacation. But you know, I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I've never been on the West Coast at all. So you know, would like to plan some trip maybe like that. Maybe somewhere where it's not quite as hot as it could be here in the summer.
So
I'm thinking about a northwestern trip sometime.
I was going to say some of the things that I've done for vacation. Of course, we've done the beach, and I think the beach is one of the most popular destinations for summer vacations. Me and Deirdre Deirdre has taken several trips, but I've taken one trip to Europe.
Oh, wow.
So we've gone to Europe. We went to Europe one year where we went to France. We went to Great Britain, and then we went to where else did we go? Ireland. So we did that
Oh,
trip,
wow.
and that was very fun. And I recommend going to Europe. It's neat. Let's see what else. We went to New York City one year. New York City's awesome. If you've never been to New York City, you should go. It's not the cleanest place, Tim, but it's still nice, and there's a lot to do there. We got to see the Statue of Liberty, of course, Ellis Island, a lot of that cool stuff. Broadway shows. We actually went during the U.S. Open tennis tournament, so I got to see the U.S. Open, and that was awesome. So New York City was great. Europe was great. The beach is great. I don't know if there's any really bad summer vacation ideas that you could have.
No,
like
just getting away, and I think that it's really important for everybody to kind of leave your work, leave things behind, and have a good time. I was talking to a young guy at church. He was talking about this. He just felt like such a failure. He went on this camping trip the other night when it came that bad storm through. Right. They were tent camping. He was just saying every day. I was just like, why did I put my family through this? And he has a young daughter and stuff, and they got chigger bites and all this stuff. I said, yeah, but those are the stories you tell and you laugh about. I think it's important for families to. This was the first year we all four went on vacation together, and I think to make some kind of memories like that, I think vacations are important.
Absolutely.
I think they're good to get away, good to spend some quality time. Forces you to talk. Those long drives or plane rides or boat rides. Never taken a cruise. That's on my to-do list.
I've never taken a cruise either. Deirdre's not big. My wife, she's not big on the sea. I think she may get a little seasick, which is probably why we've never been on one. But I've heard that they're fun. We have good friends, arcade friends that go all the time.
Right. Oh, yeah.
The Houston contingent down there, they go all the time.
They sure do.
So they say it's awesome. They have a lot of good time. So, but
and sometimes we plan our trips around festivals or shows, and I definitely want to go back to Atlanta.
Yeah,
I'd like to do that next year.
So we will at some point. So anything else?
No, let's get out of here.
Okay, well that's the after show. Thanks for watching. If you missed the rest of the show, rewind it back a bit. You can watch it. It will be available here in the archives, of course, very soon. And other than that, Tim, stay tuned for more updates as they become available for SNES Classics and all sorts of stuff. So thanks again, guys, for watching tonight, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you guys in the chat room over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sticking with us. Good night, everybody.
Good night.